Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here. This time reviewing on Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. Now, as you know, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery was a 1997 spy comedy film, which was the first installment in the Austin Powers film series that had two other sort of film sequels. The first one being The Spy Who Loved Me, as well as Goldmember. And the best way I can sum up Austin Powers' International Man of Mysteries is a hard truth moral that obviously the past will and can change, and if you don't move on from it, you can end up crashing or burning, getting into trouble, and sometimes, not everything works out like the old days. We see how back in 1967, we see how Austin Powers, as well as his sort of female aide known as Lady Kensington, ends up dealing with Dr. Evil, who ends up escaping and getting cryogenically frozen. We see how Austin Powers volunteers to get frozen up until 1997, where once Dr. Evil's returned, Austin Powers gets defrozen and has to deal with Dr. Evil once again. And you do see the similarities between Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. Due to them being defrosted, they don't know too much about the outside world. They kind of realize the consequences of, the sort of not knowing too much about history and so forth. But the only difference is, Austin does see it the hard way and sees how it slowly affects other people, while Dr. Evil doesn't seem to show any concern, care, as well as the thoughts of hurting others. I mean, the only difference is, when Austin is with basically Miss Kensington's daughter, Vanessa, he slowly starts to see that, Vanessa might actually be making a good, honest point. Because keep in mind, back then, in any day and age, the things that Austin Powers did back in the past were meant to be common. But nowadays, it could be frowned upon, or even seen as completely unethical. But we also do see how when Dr. Evil has his son Scott and the people around him, he does get openly annoyed, but he never seems to think through his actions and how it can affect others. I think the rest of the film has to rely on this whole over-top spy comedy trope. Like, obviously having the character be more flamboyant, you have the villain who comes up with these over-the-top schemes only for his sidekicks to kind of point out the sort of flaws in them, and obviously going with the over-the-top plots that most spy comedies do, because obviously Totally Spies did it, Kim Possible did it, and many others. I think Austin Powers works because, it has a bit of a cautionary tale. It definitely reminds you that back in any decade like the 60s, the 70s, and even the 80s, those decades were common. It was different. But nowadays, in any modern age, those sort of things can be frowned upon, or even seen with a lot of concern, a little bit of worry, and so forth. The way I do see Vanessa and Scott are like counterparts to others. Vanessa has to be the voice of reason to Austin, but at least, Austin does show concern or care that he might have gone a bit too far. The only difference with Dr. Evil and Scott is Dr. Evil doesn't show any concern or care to the people around him. It's clear that he had opportunities to bond with Scott, but of course, he doesn't. I think as well that the comedy is trying to do what I think obviously has to do. And I think it obviously knows it has to point out the over-the-top spy tropes, the over-sex symbol, likable female partner, as well as going with the over-the-top spy genre stuff that we've seen before. Again, is Austin Powers International Man of Mystery a good film? Kind of. Does it go hard truth moral? Definitely. So I think it definitely deserves thumbs in the middle. It's kind of okay, kind of alright, but it definitely knows where it has to point out that the constant reminder that the past is the past, and you can't really go around reliving those sort of things again. Time and that will move on, and you've got to adapt to the changes in any decade that has come beforehand. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.